My name is Hien, and I'm here to present to you the findings of the IPBES Biodiversity and Pandemics Workshop Report. I was previously with the IPBES Secretariat supporting this process, and I'm currently now with the Food and Agriculture Organization as a biodiversity and pollination expert. For those of you that do not yet know what IPBES is, it's the Intergovernmental Science Policy Platform on Biodiversity and Ecosystem Services, IPBES. The main objective of IPBES is to strengthen knowledge foundations for all decision makers at all scales towards biodiversity conservation and overall human well-being. IPBES is an independent intergovernmental body, and it was established in 2012. Currently, we have 137 member countries that belong to IPBES. IPBES's first work program spanned from 2014 until 2018. Currently, it's in its second work program up to 2030. IPBES has a collaborative partnership with 4 UN agencies, UNEP, UNESCO, FAO, and UNDP. Its secretariat is hosted by Germany, and it is situated in Bonn, Germany. This is just a snapshot of the IPBES assessments. So IPBES has 4 functions, and one of the functions involves assessments. So the arrow here is pointing in between our big meetings, which are called plenaries. So we're leading up to our 8th meeting or plenary in early next year or mid next year. The green assessments are the ones that are currently ongoing, and the ones in red are the ones that are being proposed to be done within the second work program of IPBES. IPBES is advised by 2 subsidiary bodies, the Bureau and the Multidisciplinary Expert Panel, or MEP. In the context of this extraordinary situation caused by COVID, the subsidiary bodies consider the role that IPBES can play in strengthening the knowledge base about the linkages between pandemics and biodiversity, and called for a platform workshop, which was held at the end of July. The workshop report supports the IPBES plenary approved activities and is considered supporting material to authors of ongoing assessments and also future assessments. In this case, in particular, the Nexus assessment, which includes a strong component of biodiversity and health interlinkages along with other components. The large take-home message from this workshop report is that we can escape the pandemic era, but this will require a seismic shift from reaction to prevention. Pandemics represent an existential threat to the health and welfare of people across our planet. As we're seeing this unfold, we realize that the distribution of tragedies and the economic impact is not felt equally across regions and countries, nor within countries. There's strong scientific evidence already to understand pandemic risk, and we can therefore escape this pandemic era. It will not be straightforward, and it's not simple. It's not something as simple as finding money for vaccine development. But more, we point to options of transformative change that involves the way we produce and consume foods and goods, and also the way we are looking at this unsustainable economic growth that we seem to be having. The science is quite clear. The majority, approximately 70% of emerging diseases and almost all known pandemics are zoonotic. So here are some examples as of late, which include influenza, Ebola, Zika, HIV, SARS, and AIDS, and COVID-19, sorry. These are all caused by microbes of animal origin, zoonotic, and these microbes spill over due to contact among wildlife, livestock, and people. This slide is showing the major drivers of disease, and here I'll point to some of the drivers of disease, which are also the same drivers of biodiversity loss and climate change, and therefore it's of great interest to IPBES to look at this. Microbial diversity is part of our natural system. Disease emergence is rooted in human interaction with biodiversity of microbes and their reservoir host species. So land use change is a globally significant driver of pandemics and caused the emergence of more than 30% of new diseases reported since 1960s. When I say land use change, I mean destruction of habitat through deforestation, human settlements in primarily wildlife habitat, the growth of crops and livestock, including expansion and intensification of crop and livestock production, and urbanization. Wildlife trade and consumption is also a major driver of disease. The farming, trade, and consumption or overconsumption of wildlife and wildlife-derived products such as food, medicine, fur, and other products have led to biodiversity loss and emerging diseases, including SARS and COVID-19. An estimated 1.7 million currently undiscovered viruses are thought to exist in the wild right now. Of these, up to 827 could have the ability to infect humans. The most important reservoirs of pathogens with pandemic potential are mammals, in particular bats, rodents, primates, and some birds, in particular water birds, as well as livestock, which include pigs, camels, and poultry. This far exceeds the current cataloged viral diversity known from these hosts, which is less than 2,000. And this suggests less than 0.1% of potential zoonotic viral risk has been discovered. We can identify and address pathogen threats before they spread. So this workshop report really outlines options that people can take on all scales and all levels to really curb the pandemic risk. One option is an Intergovernmental Council on Pandemic Prevention. This really would look at the underlying drivers, and it would serve as a coordinating body that brings together information and potentially suggest monitoring frameworks. The second option is institutionalizing the One Health approach. This could be used to better build preparedness plans and to enhance ability to investigate and control outbreaks. The third option involves incorporating pandemic risk into planning. And as you can see here, pandemic risk can be taken into account with consumption, etc. Enabling transformative change to reduce the types of consumption, globalizing agricultural expansion, and trade that have led to pandemics are options. Our business as usual approach does not work. As you can see from COVID-19 and all previous pandemics, we just wait for the pandemic to appear and then we react. Right now, we're still waiting on a vaccine for COVID-19, and as you can see, it's costly in terms of economic costs and costly in terms of lives. We are currently undergoing the third wave or uptick in COVID cases in Europe. This week, we remain the biggest global contributor to new COVID-19 cases and deaths in the past week, as reported by the World Health Organization. The European region accounted for 44% of global new cases and 49% of global new deaths in the past week. So as we're waiting for a vaccine, more lives are being lost. There's 44 million cases of COVID-19 worldwide, and of those 44 million cases, 1.1 million deaths have occurred, and that is most likely an underestimation. This COVID-19 pandemic has also highlighted the inequalities that exist globally, gaps in healthcare and access, the economic impact that has more severe consequences for certain vulnerable groups, such as women, people in poverty, and indigenous peoples. Pandemic control policies can and should be inclusive for these reasons. Trillions of dollars are lost, and the cost of preventing pandemic really just pales in comparison to the impact of just one pandemic. This is a snapshot of some of the pandemics over time since 1994, and the estimated cost in billions is on the side. As you can see, this large circle here is COVID-19, and we do not yet know the total cost of COVID-19 yet, as we are still currently experiencing it. What's clear here is the trend over the last few years with increasing economic impact with each one of these pandemics. Preventing a pandemic is less than the cost of recovering from a pandemic. These estimates are getting better every day and clearer as we find out numbers. There are strong economic incentives for transformative change to reduce the risk of pandemics. Pandemics and other emerging zoonoses cause widespread human suffering and likely more than $1 trillion in economic damage annually. If you look at the global strategies to prevent pandemics, and this was based on a paper done recently, it estimated by reducing wildlife trade and land use change and increasing One Health surveillance, it's estimated to cost between $22 and $31.2 billion annually, really just a fraction. So 2 orders of magnitudes less than the damage of pandemics alone, what they produce in terms of damage. This provides a strong economic incentive for transformative change to reduce pandemic risk. So the question is, why aren't we doing it? Without preventative strategies, pandemics will emerge more often, spread more rapidly, kill more people, and affect the global economy with more devastating impact than ever before. So we shouldn't let this moment go, and so we should take action now for preventative measures for now and in the future, as opposed to a reactive one. So those are the take-home messages from the IPBES Biodiversity and Pandemics Report. Thank you for listening to my presentation.